"Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel." She thought it was hilarious. They all did. It started the moment the lights dimmed and the screen came on. Everyone at that company retreat was already a few drinks in, loose, laughing, and then boom, there I was, projected 6 feet tall on the wall. The video opened with me nervously adjusting my tie, then stammering my way through an office Zoom call. They'd edited in clown music. Every time I said, it honked. Literally honked. Then came the slow-motion replay of me slipping on ice outside the building last winter. Coffee flying, arms flailing, full wipeout, set to opera music. And then, just when I thought it was over, the last clip, the one that made the whole room roar. It was me, in bed, shirtless, mumbling in my sleep, "I swear, I'm smart. I just overthink everything." A full-on sleep-talking breakdown. Caught on camera. Edited. Subtitled. Shared without my consent. I stood there frozen in place, holding a paper plate of potato salad, while laughter exploded around me. And in the front row, Karis, not even trying to hide it. She had her phone out, filming my reaction to her prank. Grinning like a kid who just pulled the school fire alarm and got away with it. Except she didn't. Because that night, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even finish my potato salad. I walked out of the lodge, out of her life, out of the entire version of me that let things like that slide. No goodbyes, no explanations, just disappeared. And for years, I didn't speak her name. Until last week when she found me. Famous, successful, unrecognizable. She whispered, "How'd you make it?" And I told her 2 words. She dropped to her knees, sobbing, begging. But I didn't look back. Because those 2 words, they were the ones she once laughed at. And now, they've rewritten everything. The next morning, nobody texted me. Not even her. And I wasn't surprised. When the joke's done and the punchline walks away, no one checks if he's okay. They just rewind the clip and laugh again. I didn't take anything with me. Not my charger, not my spare keys, not even the blazer I'd borrowed from her dad because she said mine made me look like I worked IT at a gas station. I left it all hanging on the back of a chair at the lodge's dining hall while the DJ started playing some remix of a TikTok song and people danced on like it never happened. I walked 5 miles that night. I didn't even realize it until I saw the sun coming up over a 24-hour diner and my feet had started to blister inside those cheap formal shoes. I spent the rest of the morning in a corner booth with 1 coffee refill after another, staring at the wall and trying to figure out what exactly I was anymore. Not a boyfriend, that part was clear. Not an employee either, technically, since I'd handed in my notice a week earlier to go freelance so I could take a leap, as she encouraged me to do, right before organizing a public execution of my self-esteem. That day turned into 3. I slept in a pay-by-the-hour motel with a broken lock and a buzzing fluorescent light that clicked every 20 seconds like a metronome designed by someone who hated peace. On the 4th day, I turned off my phone and left it in a trash can outside a bowling alley. No SIM, no tracking, no contacts, no "where are you?" messages. But no apologies either. Not from Karis. Not from her friends who laughed. Not from her coworker who posted the video to their Slack group with the caption "Office Oscar goes to Ezra." The only time I heard anything close to remorse was 6 months later when someone I barely knew messaged me from a burner account. She didn't mean for it to go that far, but by then, I'd already started building something new. Not revenge. Not a comeback. Just silence. Freedom. I was sleeping on a pull-out sofa in a mechanic's garage in Indiana, trading tech skills for shelter, eating fast food, learning to breathe without waiting for someone to laugh at me. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't Instagram-worthy. But it was mine. I spent my days reading books I'd never had time for and nights fixing people's busted laptops. Slowly building a tiny freelance network that didn't care what I looked like when I talked. Karis was gone. The laughter was fading. And in its place, something else started growing, something quiet, focused, stubborn. She didn't know it yet, but the version of me she laughed at was already dead. And something far more dangerous was about to replace him. Some people vanish to punish others. I didn't. I vanished to stop bleeding. There's a difference. When your existence becomes a punchline, And the person you trusted with your softest pieces turns them into party favors. You don't get loud. You get empty. You get quiet. You go. And that's what I did. Not dramatically. No revenge playlist. No cryptic goodbye posts. I just became someone she couldn't tag anymore. Indiana was temporary. I moved again. First to Michigan, where I slept in the back of a gutted-out van while doing nighttime security shifts for a warehouse I didn't even know the name of. Then I followed a Craigslist lead to Kansas, where a retired coder needed help automating his irrigation system. I learned things I never thought I'd touch. Python, microcontrollers, solar panel wiring, even basic accounting. I didn't have a 5-year plan. I just kept saying yes, kept solving problems, kept my head down. And slowly, people started noticing. It wasn't a boom. It was a ripple. Someone would mention me in a forum. A guy from Arizona sent me a DM asking if I could build him a tracking dashboard for his business inventory. I did. He paid me triple what I asked. Then his friend needed help. And that friend's sister. And soon I was waking up to emails that started with, "I heard you're the guy who can." No one cared what I looked like. No one laughed when I paused too long on a call or fumbled for words. My name became something different in their inboxes. Not Ezra the joke. Not Ezra the boyfriend of that lifestyle YouTuber. Just Ezra the guy who gets it done. I built my website using code I barely understood when I started. I kept it simple, clean, no pictures, just results. And it worked. By the time year 2 rolled around, I had more work than I could handle. So I started hiring. Carefully, quietly, people like me. Smart, overlooked, underestimated. We weren't a team. We were a ghost network. Karis didn't exist in my mind anymore. Or at least I told myself that. But there were moments, like when someone said, "My partner's kind of the loud type," or when I saw a clip online of someone pulling a prank on a guy with a nervous laugh, when her face flashed back in my memory like a power surge. I feel it then. That same sharp sting of humiliation. Buried but not gone. And then, the email came through the site. No name, just a subject line. "Is this you?" Attached was a link to a YouTube short, the video. That video. The Ezra highlight reel, as her fans had come to call it. Over 6 million views. I hadn't known it was still online. I didn't click. I just sat there staring at my name being reduced to a spectacle all over again. Except this time I wasn't helpless. Because this time I had a name that meant something. And money. And lawyers. And plans. I didn't reply to the email. I didn't have to. Whoever sent it, whether it was a troll or someone fishing for a reaction, only confirmed what I hadn't fully accepted yet. That video still lived, and so did the version of me she tried to freeze in time. But what they didn't realize is, I no longer existed in that world. I wasn't the punchline anymore. I owned the stage. Quietly. Invisibly. And that gave me more power than they could ever understand. But seeing the link triggered something I hadn't felt in a long time. The itch to confront, to unearth the past I buried too deep and too fast. So I did something I swore I'd never do again. I searched her name. She hadn't changed much. Still active online. Still loud. Still curated. But her channel had plateaued. Fewer comments. Weaker engagement. She'd shifted from comedy queen to wellness advocate. Whatever that meant. But the archives? They were still there. Still monetized. Still profiting from the humiliation of a man who no longer existed. That's when I decided to make contact. Not with her. With her brand. Through a third-party investor. My legal team helped me draft a proposal under a holding company. We offered to acquire her content library, claimed we were launching a nostalgic comedy archive, and wanted to celebrate early internet humor. The number we offered wasn't huge, but it was shiny enough to catch attention. Just enough bait. 3 days later, I got a response. From her. She didn't recognize my name. Why would she? I wasn't the Ezra she knew. I was the managing partner of a faceless LLC with a clean website and a curated offer. She wanted to schedule a Zoom call. My lawyer advised against it. I ignored him. I joined the meeting with camera off, voice filtered. She looked tired, not in the way people look after a long day, but in the way people look when they've spent too long pretending everything's fine. She launched into her pitch like I was a stranger, professional, poised, trying hard to impress. I let her talk, let her believe. Then I asked, "Do you remember the man in the video where you edited clown music over his voice?" Her smile faltered for just a second. There were a few sketches like that. I mean, that was years ago. We were just being silly. You posted it without his consent. You called it content. It was cruelty." Her screen froze. She blinked, slowly. "Wait, who is this?" I leaned in just slightly and said 2 words, the words she used to mock in every video title, every caption, every joke. "It's Ezra." The silence on her end was suffocating. Her expression collapsed. She didn't even try to hide it. She reached for something off-screen. Maybe to shut the laptop, maybe to breathe. And then it happened. She broke. "No, it can't be," she whispered, voice cracking. "Ezra, I didn't mean for it to." But I didn't let her finish. I ended the call. She wanted answers, closure, a chance to flip the script. But she wasn't going to get it, because the man she laughed at no longer existed. And the one sitting behind the curtain, he wasn't laughing. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was haunted by her voice or shaken by her tears, but because something in me finally settled. Like an old wound had stopped festering, not because it was healed, but because I had stopped picking at it. She knew. That was enough. She knew I wasn't dead, wasn't broken, wasn't the joke she'd left behind. I was something else now, and the realization didn't comfort her. It destroyed her. Still, I didn't celebrate. That's not how this works. You don't climb out of a grave and throw a party. You climb out and learn to walk all over again. You build. You reinforce. You stay quiet because you remember what noise got you in trouble in the first place. I buried the interaction and went back to work. My team had grown to 22 people by then, all remote, scattered across time zones, all brilliant in their own overlooked ways. I paid well over market. I never asked for Zoom cameras on. I never forced culture calls. I respected silence. We delivered on time and always ahead of expectation. But then, less than a week after the call, a package arrived at my office. No return address. Inside was a handwritten letter, folded so precisely it felt like origami. It read, "I don't expect forgiveness. I just want to know how you did it, how you became you. I look in the mirror and I see someone stuck. You got out. How?" That was it. No apology, no ownership, just hunger, desperation. She wanted the blueprint. She wanted a shortcut to rebuild what she broke. Not because she wanted to make things right, but because she couldn't stand that I escaped the orbit of her spotlight and shined anyway. And for a moment, a brief, flickering second, I almost wrote back. I almost sat down and poured out the journey, the grit, the countless nights sleeping next to vending machines, the cold motel showers, the Craigslist gigs, the forums, the first $100 check that felt like a lottery win. I almost shared it all. But I didn't, because it wouldn't matter. People like her don't want your scars. They want your shine. They don't want your climb. They want your summit. So I burned the letter. And the next morning, I bought the rights to the music track she'd used in that humiliating video. I licensed it exclusively. It was mine now. No one else could use it on any platform. And then I used it in my own product launch teaser. Our new platform, built by nobodies for nobodies, people who never got to sit at the table but built their own anyway. The trailer went live with that music in the background, but with a very different message. Not mockery, not noise, but purpose. And when her audience heard it, they noticed. I didn't expect what came next. Emails, messages, comments, people asking if I was that Ezra. A few saying they remembered the old clip and how it always made them feel uncomfortable. One said, "I showed it to my girlfriend once. She got really quiet and asked why I thought it was funny." That's when I realized the tide wasn't just turning. It had already turned. I wasn't trying to go viral. I wasn't trying to win. But something bigger was happening anyway. The very tools she used to laugh at me were now carrying my voice farther than hers ever could. And she was about to face something worse than being hated. She was about to be forgotten. It was never about revenge. That would have made her the center again, and I refused to orbit her anymore. But when people started asking questions online, speculating about who I really was, I realized I didn't need to answer them. I just needed to keep building, keep walking, let the past chase me if it wanted to. It was too slow now to ever catch up. A journalist reached out. He was doing a feature on anonymous tech disruptors, said he found our platform refreshingly principled, asked if I'd go on record. I declined, but I gave him one quote, typed carefully, no name attached. It said, "What they laugh at today might be paying their bills tomorrow." He loved it, used it as the headline. I didn't tell him it came from something she once mocked me for saying, a throwaway line in one of her vlogs where she filmed me talking about wanting to build something that actually mattered. Back then, she laughed so hard she had to pause the recording. But now it was printed across the top of a respected magazine, next to a faceless silhouette representing the founder no one saw coming. My inbox exploded after that. VCs, incubators, tech podcasts, even ex-bosses suddenly acting like I just returned from the dead. And in the middle of it all, buried between spam filters and newsletters, was one name I hadn't seen in years. Karis. This time it was an audio file. No subject line, no message, just a short clip. Her voice, quiet, raw, nothing like the version of her that used to dominate a room. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She simply said, "I get it now, and I hate that it took losing everything to see it." Then silence. I stared at the screen for a long time. That voice used to control so much of me. My confidence, my anxiety, my identity. But now it just sounded like someone I didn't know. Like a voicemail left on a number that hadn't been active in years. I didn't delete it, but I didn't reply either. Instead, I did something that caught even me off guard. I sent a private donation, a sizable one, to a mental health nonprofit she'd recently promoted during a podcast. I didn't sign my name. I didn't attach a message. I just gave, because maybe there was still a part of me that believed people could change. But I also knew better than to invite them back in to find out. Days passed, then weeks. The noise died down again, as it always does. Trends moved on. Algorithms shifted. New scandals took over the public eye. And her name slowly started vanishing from thumbnails, hashtags, reaction videos. She wasn't canceled. That would have been too loud. She was simply passed by, forgotten by the very machine she once fed daily with other people's shame. And me? I kept going. Built a second platform. Launched a scholarship program. Hired 2 interns who reminded me too much of myself it hurt. One of them asked me once if I'd ever been publicly embarrassed. I just smiled and said, "Once, but I was asking for it." They laughed. I didn't, because I wasn't joking. The invitation was never sent to her. It was a closed-door keynote, investors, collaborators, and a select group of media reps. I'd kept it that way on purpose. No live stream, no hashtags, no room for disruption. I was launching the next phase of our platform, something we'd been quietly building for over a year. It wasn't just tech. It was a declaration, a solution for digital trauma, for people who'd had their lowest moments turned into punchlines, who'd been shoved into viral spotlights and left to rot in silence afterward. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd stepped out of the shadows not to celebrate what had happened to me, but to give a voice to everyone who didn't disappear like I did. And the night before the keynote, I remember pacing my hotel room, rehearsing my speech in my head, still doubting whether I should do it with my real face, my real voice, whether I wanted to be fully visible again. But then she showed up. I was standing by the catering table during the pre-event mixer, keeping to myself as usual, when I caught a glimpse of someone standing near the back exit, eyes locked on me like she couldn't believe I was real. Her hair was shorter, her makeup lighter, but that same tension lived behind her smile. The look of someone used to controlling the room and suddenly realizing she no longer did. Karis. For a second, it felt like the air got thinner. My chest tightened, not with fear, but with a strange, quiet disappointment. She looked exactly like she used to, and yet completely unfamiliar, like someone wearing an old version of herself that didn't fit anymore. She didn't approach me right away, just hovered, watching, waiting. Then, as the crowd shifted, She slipped closer. I didn't move. I wanted to see if she'd speak first. She did. I didn't know you'd actually be here, she said. Like that made any kind of sense. You weren't invited, I replied calmly. My voice didn't shake this time. No cameras here. No stage for you. Her smile faltered. I'm not here for attention. No, I said. You're here because no one's giving you any anymore. She flinched at that. A tiny, involuntary twitch in her jaw. I'd hit something real. I wanted to see what you became, she said finally. Everyone's talking about you. And when I saw that clip, the one with the music, her voice caught. I knew it had to be you. I was right, wasn't I? I didn't answer, just held her gaze. I thought humiliating you would make people love me more, she admitted, voice barely above a whisper now. I thought it was harmless. But you turned it into something. You became everything I pretended to be. That last part landed differently. It was the closest thing to a confession she'd ever given. Still, I didn't trust it. Too late. Too rehearsed. Too neat. I leaned in, just enough for her to hear over the low jazz hum of the mixer. You're going to sit in that audience tomorrow, I said. And you're going to watch me talk about people like you. And I want you to feel it. Not just for me. For every person you laughed at, stepped over, used. Because when I walk off that stage, I won't think about you again. But you'll never forget this. Her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite name. Maybe regret, maybe resentment, maybe the crushing weight of irrelevance. She stepped back, nodded once, and melted into the crowd. I didn't see her again that night, but I knew tomorrow would be the final moment. The one where everything flipped for good. And she knew it too. The next morning, I stepped onto that stage without hesitation. No filters, no voice modulation, no digital shield between me and the world. Just me, Ezra, the man she once turned into a joke, now standing in front of people who'd invested not just in my ideas, but in the quiet resilience that built them. The spotlight didn't burn anymore. Felt earned. I told the truth. Not the viral version. Not the revenge fantasy. I told them how easy it is to become a ghost when the world laughs at your worst moment. How hard it is to keep building in silence. And how there are thousands of others still out there. Talented, brilliant people buried under shame that wasn't theirs to carry. And as I spoke, I saw her. In the third row, silent, small. She didn't fidget. She didn't look away. She just listened. And when I said, this platform isn't for going viral. It's for staying human. I saw her close her eyes like she was swallowing something bitter. After the standing ovation, I walked off stage and disappeared into the hallway behind the venue. I didn't want the praise. I just wanted air. But she was waiting there, leaning against the wall like she had something rehearsed. I owe you everything, she said. Not because you forgave me, because you didn't. I studied her face. For the first time, there was no performance. Just a woman who saw clearly what she had lost, and who would never get it back. You want to know how I made it? I asked. She nodded slowly. I stepped closer, looked her dead in the eye, and said the two words she never expected to hear. Without you. Her face broke. No screaming. No protests. Just a collapse. Emotional, quiet, honest. She lowered herself to the floor, knees tucked into herself like she was trying to disappear. I didn't stay. I didn't need to. I walked outside into the morning sun, where my team was waiting. We got coffee. We laughed. Not at anyone, but with each other. For once, the laughter was kind. Years ago, I walked out of that party with nothing. No plan, no support, no dignity. But now I had peace, purpose, people who respected silence and understood what it meant to survive. This wasn't a story of revenge. It was a story of reclamation. I didn't win to spite her. I won because I stopped needing her to notice. And that was the real victory. What moment in this story hit you the hardest? Was it the public humiliation? The silent rebuild? The two words? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone. You've been watching Reddit Confessions. Thanks for joining us. And remember, even when they laugh, keep building. Your story isn't over yet.